So today the Safer Schools campaign took part in a hearing to apply for a review of a decision to refuse to issue a summons against Gavin Williamson, the recently dismissed Secretary of State for Education, to face allegations of misconduct in public office. In the judge's view, there wasn't any neglect or misconduct serious enough to cross the very high criminal threshold that the offence requires. As a litigant in person, a former teacher and the leader of a campaign that represents over 100 families that have fought tirelessly behind the scenes, not only in the names of their own children who have been seriously harmed or lost to suicide because of bullying and violence in schools, but for so many others that are at risk all across the country. Today I presented our arguments to the High Court that the initial decision was wrong. The court disagreed and found that the judge was entitled to form an opinion that the alleged complaints were not serious enough to engage the alleged offence. The misconduct alleged relates to allegations that Gavin Williamson, along with a number of government ministers and officials, had been involved in failing to investigate alleged failings within the DfE that it had been alleged were linked to suicides and serious sexual and physical assaults on children in schools across the country, as well as a possible murder of a young girl. These allegations were accepted on the face of the evidence, and although the alleged failure to keep information about the potential murder from the police was discussed, the judge found that that may have been down to potentially incompetence or error, but not definitely criminal cover-up. The evidence also reveals that the failings and deliberately taking no action to prevent further serious injury, abuse and deaths from happening. This constitutes evidence of unlawful action at least, and does not discount the possibility of further investigation and criminal summons being brought against others in Parliament at a later date. The complaints and allegations stem from issues first raised almost 8 years ago. These allegations eventually led to a 2-month police assessment of the complaints, first raised through Cressida Dick's office and initially investigated by the Special Crime Unit of the London Met, who chose not to take things any further. Remarkably, the government and magistrates have not objected to my claims at any stage and did not appear to defend the failings today. As a result, despite the decision not to review, I do not have to pay any costs. We now need to ask the question of how in the United Kingdom in 2021, legitimate allegations and concerns related to the deaths, physical and sexual assaults, including rapes of children, and issues that directly affect more than 10 million children in schools across the UK, have been allowed to come this far to the High Court without anyone in positions of responsibility and authority ever having taken any steps whatsoever to investigate the issues and do something to try to prevent further deaths and protect children from harm. In light of the judge's findings today, we're now calling for the setup of an immediate UK-wide public inquiry. The evidence and statistics suggest there is a mass of cases where children have suffered serious physical harm and psychological injury, as well as deaths over the last few decades, where families have alleged that it has been down to the victims, they have been victims of failure and injustice, and yet their claims have never been investigated. In the meantime, we're also requesting a live evidence session with the committee and with MPs in Parliament in an open and transparent environment. The solutions and the information to immediately limit harms and further loss of life is available, and opportunities to access that information have been offered and not taken on numerous occasions already. Last week, Parliament flew in an individual Facebook employee all the way from the US, apparently to share information that Parliament tells us was for no other reason to protect UK citizens, and especially children, from harm. In the next few weeks, we expect as UK families representing every child in schools across the UK and desperately trying to protect them from serious harm and death to be afforded exactly the same courtesy, and we'll be in touch with relevant ministers and MPs across the House within days to ensure that now takes place as soon as is practically possible. For those not aware of our story, all the information about the campaign and our journey is available across social media at Fight for the Fatherless in Action, and you can make contact through the website fightforthefatherlessinaction.org. Please do what you now can to share and follow our story and to help us hold government to account. Most importantly, keep all that you do, all that we do, and the children in your prayers, and that know that God is a God that sees everything that we do and continues to call us to do more.